Hi everyone, it's Katrina. From circles carved into stone to a baffling case of spontaneous human combustion, it's amazing to think that in this day and age, there are discoveries that still can't be explained, but I'm going to try since this is Origins Explained. The stone circle. On the slope of a Turkish mountain, a mysterious circle was discovered carved into the solid rock. Nobody knows what the circle is or where it came from. The unusual formation suddenly showed up on the side of Mount Nebu. Just take a look at these images for yourself. It looks as if the circle was made by some kind of laser blast. The formation is about 6 feet in diameter, but if you look closely at the images, you'll see there is an additional circle off to the side hidden in shadow. The big circle is connected to the small one through a straight line. The even contours of the circles make it obvious they were made artificially. Nature doesn't typically make things in perfect circles carved into rock. Maybe they were made by humans a long time ago as wall carvings, but locals are saying they just appeared out of nowhere. These weird formations are the rock equivalent of crop circles. Unfortunately, there isn't any reliable information about this strange discovery. Pictures have appeared online, but mainstream scientists are not talking about it. Do you think these strange circles were lasered into the side of a mountain? Or is this whole thing a prank? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. The mysteries of the brain. It's kind of ironic if you think about it. Archaeologists and paleontologists can dig in some dirt and look back millions of years into ancient history. Yet scientists can't figure out the secrets of the brains inside our heads. Although to be fair, scientists at Vanderbilt University are trying their hardest. They recently made an unexplainable discovery inside the human brain. The brain is a mystery made of 2 types of matter. There's gray matter, which you may have heard about before. It's the squishy stuff that's home to all your nerve cell bodies. The nerves and cells in gray matter are responsible for controlling your movement, your thoughts, your sensations, and even your speech. But there is also something called white matter in the human brain. It's significantly more mysterious because scientists don't know exactly what's going on in the white matter. They think it's home to a connection network, linking various cells and sending signals through the body to keep it operational. Since humans started studying the brain in ancient times, scientists have been focused on gray matter. It's the hub of activity, but it only makes up half of the brain. The other half is made of white matter, which is virtually unstudied. Researchers recently used functional magnetic resonance imaging to look for signals within the white matter. They had people perform simple tasks like wiggling their fingers while they scanned their brains. They discovered unusual signals inside the white matter when people were concentrating on a certain activity. But according to Dr. Kurt Schilling, they don't know what it means. All scientists can say for certain is that something is happening inside the brain. The white matter is obviously more important than anybody anticipated. But what kinds of secrets might white matter reveal in time about the true power of the human mind? And now for number 6. But first, it's shoutout time! I want to give a big thank you to DMC7346 and James Smiley for supporting this channel. Be sure to subscribe if you haven't already for more videos about incredible and unexplainable discoveries. The alien stone. A mysterious rock discovered in Egypt could be evidence of a tremendous galactic explosion. According to a new study by scientists at the University of Johannesburg, the strange rock uncovered in the Egyptian desert in 1996 came from a supernova. Supernova is not just a great name for a band. It's also what happens when a white dwarf star consumes another white dwarf star and they explode in a storm of cosmic fury. Although scientists know these events happen far from us in the expanse of space, they've never held physical proof of one in their hand. Now, scientists think the mysterious alien stone from Egypt could be the first evidence of a supernova that made it to Earth. What I'm trying to say is that this piece of rock may have been created when a star blew up. A star exploding is not a rare event in space, but a piece of that debris landing on our planet is beyond rare. It's so rare it seems impossible, especially since the rock likely took billions of years to form. Geochemist Jan Kramer says the intergalactic stone was formed by the gas atoms that got caught in the dust cloud following the explosion of a distant star. The dust and gas from the explosion gradually fused together over billions of years, floating in space to create a massive chunk of rock. That rock was then hurled through space until it broke apart, and a tiny fragment barely the size of a person's hand landed in the Egyptian desert. This is the theory anyway, based on the chemical composition of the rock. Scientists don't know for sure, though, where it came from. Either way, the rock went on an incredible journey to get here, and then somebody had to find it. How did the Egyptians build the pyramids? Speaking of mysteries that may never get solved, how did the Egyptians build the pyramids? It's a question people have been asking for hundreds of years. 4,500 years ago, the Egyptians constructed the Great Pyramid of Giza. It stood at an original height of 481 feet. That's an approximate measurement. It was the tallest structure on the planet for 3,800 years until the Lincoln Cathedral in 1311. How did the Egyptians pull off such an amazing feat? Did you know the Great Pyramid of Egypt, also called the Pyramid of Cheops, is not the oldest of all the Egyptian pyramids? The oldest masonry monument in the world is believed to be the Pyramid of Djoser in Saqqara, Egypt. It was built around the year 2630 BC. Nobody knows exactly why, but the main hypothesis is that it was built as a funerary monument for King Djoserrat. It stood about half the height of the Pyramid of Cheops. It also wasn't smooth like the later pyramids. The Pyramid of Djoser was built more like a ziggurat from ancient Mesopotamia. It was tiered with multiple levels, not smooth like the pyramids at Giza. When you look at something like a ziggurat or any other tiered pyramid from around the world, you can find them across Asia, Polynesia, and all the way to North America. They're easy to understand. It's easy to see how people built a giant triangular staircase. Smooth pyramids capture our imaginations because they seem so much more difficult, but they more than likely weren't. Greek historian Herodotus said it took 100,000 skilled laborers 20 years to build the Great Pyramid. It only required about 2.3 million stone blocks, each one weighing around 2.5 tons. Recently, scientists in Egypt with the French Institute for Oriental Archaeology discovered the remains of a ramp system in the desert. The ramp system dates to the construction of the Great Pyramid. It employed post holes and staircases, which would have accommodated a sled for carrying massive stone blocks up a very steep slope. It appears to be evidence that aliens had nothing to do with building the pyramids. It was skilled laborers using ramps and math. Spontaneous combustion. In Ireland in December 2010, Michael Flaherty was discovered dead inside his home. He was 76 years old when he unexpectedly died. Normally, I wouldn't be talking about a random death in a video about unexplainable discoveries. But in this case, Michael Flaherty's death was indeed unexplainable. The coroner ruled that he died from spontaneous human combustion. It's a phenomenon almost more puzzling than the inner workings of the human brain. Spontaneous human combustion is real, more real than most people realize. There have been hundreds of cases documented around the world in the last century or so. That would mean that on average, 1 or 2 people die from suddenly bursting into flames every year. One of the most famous cases was retired firefighter George Mott in 1986. His charred body was found in his apartment, so intensely burned that his skull shrank and most of his bones were reduced to ash. Scientists, at least most of them, have dismissed spontaneous combustion as a fantasy. Yet those very same scientists have never been able to explain a single case of spontaneous combustion. They usually blame it on things like a candle or a cigarette igniting the victim. But it wouldn't explain the intense heat at which these people burn. It's as if hell itself suddenly erupts within their body and scorches them from the inside out. Even when investigators like Larry Arnold have tried to recreate the conditions for spontaneous combustion in a laboratory, they have always failed. The most popular theory right now is that some people produce acetone in their body. flammable substance. Then they catch fire through static electricity and burn. Another theory is that methane accumulates in the intestines until it ignites like a bomb. Any ideas? Let me know in the comments below. The unexplained cave. Gar Dalam has been called the unexplainable cave of Malta. People lived in it 2,000 years before the pyramids and Stonehenge. Early humans traveled into this dark and foreboding world of dripping stalactites and left their teeth behind. Let's start with an even older mystery than the teeth. Going back even further to 130,000 years ago, Malta was home to a strange assortment of animals. Deep inside Gar Dalam, archaeologists have found the skeletal remains of elephants, hippos, foxes, brown bears, wolves, and deer. Although these are obviously all different animals, they were all stunted, as in they were way tinier than they should have been. Nearly all of the animal bones found in Malta's unexplained cave come from dwarf versions of animals. What did they look like? For the pygmy elephants that lived on Malta, they hardly stood 3 feet tall at the shoulder. These were elephants so tiny and adorable you could have kept them as pets like dogs. Why can't they exist today? I'm sure that everyone would love to have house elephants. But what about the rest of the animals? How could all of them have been so miniature? Scientists think it could have been the lack of food on Malta, as it wasn't always an island. In prehistoric times, the island was isolated. Then there was a brief window in which sea levels dropped, and Malta was connected to mainland Europe. This was when prehistoric humans arrived on Malta and began exploring its underground catacombs. In 1917, archaeologist Giuseppe Despot uncovered what were believed to be teeth from a Neanderthal. The British Museum carried out radiocarbon dating tests about 50 years later. The tests showed that the teeth were from the Neolithic era, long after Neanderthals went extinct. It's now suspected a small population of Neanderthals may have survived isolated in these Maltese caves. Pretty cool, huh? The legend of Mount Nebu. In southeastern Turkey, the Taurus Mountains lie bathed in sunlight every morning. The sunrise here is glorious, especially from the top of Nemrut Mountain, amidst the stone remains of one of history's greatest mysteries. At the very top of Nemrut Mountain, at its peak 7,000 feet above sea level, is a ruin like none other. To understand the ruin, I need to take you back to the founding of the Combustion civilization in 162 BC. The Combustion kingdom grew from the dust of Mesopotamia, dominating the mountainous terrain of southern Turkey. 120 years after the kingdom established itself as a superpower, King Antiochus Thoes I took the throne. This was a man who was obsessed with immortality. He even gave the mountain its name, with Nemrut meaning immortal in the ancient Combustion language. Failing to find a scientific way for him to remain alive for all eternity, King Antiochus resorted to immortalizing himself in stone. At the top of the mountain, he constructed dozens of statues of gods from just about every civilization known to him, from Armenia to Rome, and from Greece to Persia. King Antiochus also had a megalithic tomb built for himself at the highest apex of the mountain. He wanted to be at rest at this great height for all of human existence, guarded by the stone faces of the world's most powerful gods. It was a good idea, but it didn't work out quite as King Antiochus anticipated. In the year 72 AD, the Combustion kingdom was destroyed by the Roman Empire. Mount Nemrut, being at such a high altitude, was forgotten about. For 2,000 years, it lay dormant, undiscovered until 1881. So, what gods can be found at the top of the mountain? There are sculptures of Hercules, Zeus, Fortuna, Apollo, Mithras, and of King Antiochus, who undoubtedly saw himself as a god. The biggest unexplained mystery of the ruin is that his tomb has never physically been discovered. Inscriptions have been found across Mount Nemrut saying his tomb is there, but nobody's ever reached it. Some experts have suggested his tomb was never built. Maybe once Antiochus was dead, the builders decided not to bother with such a lavish burial. There is also a possibility of hidden passages within the mountain that have never been discovered. Or maybe King Antiochus really did become a god and ascended Mount Olympus. The metal beach ball. A giant metal ball was discovered on a beach in Japan, and nobody knew where it came from. It definitely wasn't a bomb, but its origin was unknown. It was a gigantic orb made entirely of metal and covered in a sand-colored sheen. It washed up on a beach outside Hamamatsu City and really freaked out the locals. Strange beach discoveries are honestly some of my favorites. It's cool to think a random artifact from the depths of the sea suddenly appeared in the sand of a random beach. In this case, the ball was first spotted by a curious local resident going for a stroll. Alarmed, the resident called the police. The cops came to make sure it wasn't a bomb, and then nobody really knew what to do. What's the protocol for dealing with a mysterious metal beach ball? One local man told reporters the ball had already been on the beach for a month already, so he didn't see what the big fuss was about. The ball was so heavy that when he tried to roll it back into the sea, he couldn't even move it an inch across the sand. Some have suggested the ball could be a piece of Chinese spy equipment. Maybe it's a piece of a ship that sank at sea and nobody's learned about it yet. This could be a mystery that never gets solved. Thanks for watching! What's your favorite unexplained discovery? Let me know in the comments below, and be sure to hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. See you soon! Bye!